And we're live. Back again for another rodeo. Tuesday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Goran Radanovic here for Finish First Financially. And today, the live stream is going to be slightly different. Usually, I did for the past week, I did 1 hour live streams. And eventually, we'll get back into 1 hour live streams. But for now, I'm going to keep it about running for half an hour. And that's because, it's an hour to speak off the cuff is quite some time. And I think it's going to be much more entertaining when there are other people that are joining this live stream. When we get to call-ins, when people call in with their financial struggles, then I'll extend the live streams. But for now, I'm going to keep it half an hour until we get to that point where I'm taking calls. Just for the sake of saving time and really getting to the point and not fluffing around, and just trying to make these live streams as entertaining as possible and getting straight to the point. And today, let me get straight to the point now. We're going to discuss something that is really at the core of most people's financial troubles. And these two factors, I discovered them by looking at my own life and how I managed finances. And once I overcame these two factors, everything changed for me. Absolutely everything. And I've been mentioning them throughout the last couple of live streams. And I'm going to read an article that I wrote about it on finishfirstfinancially.com. So we can check that out. We can start with that. As I said, that this live stream will be slightly different. Usually I talk for about 40 minutes and then I read the article. But now I'm going to read the article and then also comment along the way. And I'm going to do two parts because there's so much. I mean, I could talk about this topic for hours and hours because it's so crucial and it's so pertinent to your financial situation. And there's so many layers to it. So I'll definitely do two parts, the first one today and then another one tomorrow. But let's get straight into the article, which is entitled "The Two Factors Causing Your Financial Distress." There's probably several factors, but for me, these are the two main ones. And if you overcome these, that is a really good thing for your finances. I think you're going to stand a much better chance of reaching your financial destination of being free, having savings, having investments, and so forth, whatever it is that you want to accomplish. Now, I wrote this in July last year. So let's check it out. I said, think back to your school days. You wanted to have friends and feel part of a peer group. But to be part of that group, you needed to be on the same socioeconomic level as your peers. Back then, it was a matter of wearing the same brand of shoes as them or having the same model phone. So if you think about your friends that you had back at school, and even now, they're more or less on the same level as you are financially, morally speaking. So you guys have commonalities. That's one of the things that kind of brings you together. It's very rare to see somebody, who's poor be friends with somebody who's ultra rich, because it happens, but it's very rare. And that's usually because they don't really have a lot in common. The super rich guy might want to go away to Paris for the weekend, and he might not necessarily want to finance his friend to come with him, but the poor friend isn't able to do that. So they don't really have, the same resources to do the things that they want to do that will enable them to have a friendship. So that's the reason that those two types of people don't really become friends. So you're usually friends with those who are more or less similar to you and have more or less the same amount of money that you have. You needed to prove to them that you were on their level to be accepted by them. Now that you're an adult, nothing has changed since those days. You're still trying to prove to others that you're on their level to be accepted by them or impress them with your possessions. If what happens is when you become friends with somebody and now they start to move up in life, not only do you become slightly jealous, but you're also worried about losing that friendship. They start going away on weekends and you're not able to join them. They want to go out to this fancy restaurant and you're on such a tight budget. And usually what happens in that case is, I'm sure it's in the article. I haven't read it in over here, but I'll definitely talk about what happens in those cases. But you're trying to keep up with them, and there's a certain way that you do it. If you're not able to, let's just put it that way. So you're still trying to prove to others that you're on their level by accepting to be accepted by them or impress them with your possessions. But the difference is you're doing it on a bigger scale now, and it's causing you financial distress. The reasons for your financial distress, here they are, and these are extremely important, and I go in detail about these two aspects in my book, From Homeless to Debtless with Savings, as I do with every other element of personal finance. It's all in the book. So, by the way, this blog is available on finishfirstfinancially.com. Obviously, keep in mind that everything that I say is not financial or investment advice. It's just for entertainment purposes. But you might find something of value within this information, because this is all knowledge and information that I gained from personal experience, from where I failed and how I corrected those mistakes to eventually reach financial freedom. So here there are the reasons for your financial distress. Is status and comfort are the two primary causes of your financial distress. Wanting to penetrate a certain social group or to receive validation from them requires you to be on the same socioeconomic as them. Otherwise, they won't take you seriously or notice you. To get to their level, you need to have a degree of status. And the way to do that is by having certain possessions. That's how you demonstrate your value. In one way to demonstrate your value, well, your possessions aren't tied to your value. At least they shouldn't be. Your car doesn't define you as a person, doesn't determine your value. Yet most of us think that it does. And if we don't have that status, if we can't show people that we're cool by our personality or whatever it is that we can actually use, then we buy items, we buy material possessions to show them that we're cool. We get that car, we get that gadget, we get that certain clothing brand and so forth, so that we show them that we're trying to be cooler than what we actually are. Okay, let's get back to the article. So, to get to their level, you need to have a degree of status. And the way we do that is by having certain possessions. We buy cars we can't afford, so we finance them. And that's what I was referring to earlier on about when you want to show a certain level of status, but you don't have it, the way to acquire it is usually through debt. We take vacations without having savings by putting them on a credit card or even taking out a loan. That's crazy. You don't have I actually did that the one time. I remember my first real vacation that I took was in 2010. Can you imagine that? I've been alive for 39 years, but the first real vacation was in 2010. And I went to Cape Town. I didn't have the cash for it, so I put on my credit card the accommodation, the car rental, I think even food. I had it on the credit card, and going out, all of that, just slapped it onto the credit card. I mean, it was a huge debt. At the time, it was big, and it took me I think maybe 2 or 3 years to pay it off. And because the interest was something like 22 to 25%. It was crazy. And I've even heard stories of people taking out loans to buy shoes for their children. Just think about that. You want your children to fit in so much with their friends, with their peers. You want them to, you're conditioning them to have this status at such a young age that you're buying them these expensive shoes on credit. That's not good for you or for them. Children, as long as they've got decent, comfortable shoes, what's wrong with that? Why do they need to be branded? Why are you conditioning your children to have these cool, expensive shoes that they don't really need? Just to fit in with their friends so that they stop nagging you and you feel like you're providing the best life for them. You don't have to teach them to be in debt and to have fancy clothing. And that's exactly what you're doing when you take out a loan to finance shoes. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's get back to the article. In most cases, we take loans to enjoy a certain level of status and comfort. A house is one example, a mortgage to enjoy a house. Most people can't afford a house with cash, so they take out a mortgage, which in that sense, I always say if there is no such thing as good debt, it doesn't exist. But if you're going to take out debt, then a mortgage for me is better than paying rent. That to me makes more sense. So from that perspective, I can understand, mortgage being like one of the, I suppose, crucial debts that is, I wouldn't say it's okay to have, but I mean, it's probably the least worst debt to have. Let me put it that way. Least worst. So think of the reason you have a nice car, which is finance in most cases. You want people to be impressed by it and make them feel that you've accomplished more than regular folks. The comfort component of car ownership means that you don't have to catch the bus and be in a congested space and stop at numerous stations before arriving at your destination. And that is a pain, I agree. Because once I got rid of my car, when it was repossessed, and then I still had to pay off the vehicle finance balance, paid that off, didn't get another car, and I had to use public transportation, even though I had cash to buy another car, but I didn't want to. And I can tell you that it is uncomfortable to have to use public transportation. There's people who are loud, who are fighting, who are rubbing up against you. It's congested. It's not pleasant always, but I did it. I made that sacrifice because I wanted to increase my savings. That's what it was. And before, my car was an impediment to my road to financial freedom. So I didn't want that obstacle. I didn't want anything holding me back from being debt free and having savings. And that's exactly what a car did for me. I mentioned several times that I spent 30% of my salary on a car, which is nuts. It's completely nuts. I made plenty of mistakes, and I'll do a live stream specifically for all the mistakes that I made financially. All of us enjoy a certain level of comfort and status that's acceptable. The only time those two factors become a problem is when you have to take out a loan to enjoy them. And, if you're financing things let's say you want to take a vacation and you finance it with cash and you've still got savings, and you don't have debt, well, yeah, then that's fine. You're in a good financial position to do that. But you're not in a good financial position to go on vacation if you have debt and you have very limited savings. Even worse is if you're going to finance that vacation. So that's the big difference. The only time those two factors become a problem is when you take out a loan to enjoy them. When you cannot pay cash for an item to enjoy status and comfort, that's when it affects your financial situation. The deeper problem with status and comfort. After you loan money to acquire status and comfort and you get them, you enter a pit that's difficult to climb out of. Let's carry on reading. Imagine having a luxury car that you financed. You love the sound system, the looks you get from strangers at a traffic light, and how it's improved your dating life, supposedly. And then I tell you to sell the car and take public transportation because you actually can't afford that vehicle. That's why it's financed. How do I know that you can't afford something? Well, if you financed it, that's how I know you weren't able to afford it. If you could afford it, you'd pay cash. And just because, by the way, you can make the monthly payments on a item, whatever it is, does not mean that you can afford it. That's a big mistake that many people in debt make. And not having it will improve your financial situation. So I'm saying not having the car will improve your financial situation. The first thing you're going to think is, oh no, I can't lower my standards now by using a bus or a tram. What are people going to think of me? How am I supposed to pick up my date without a car? It doesn't even have to be as big of a purchase as a vehicle. It can be a simple subscription to a video streaming service, which you put on your credit card because you don't have the cash for it. You know, people say, well, I mean, like subscription to a streaming service is $7 or $8 a month. Yeah, I can afford it. I mean, yeah, I'm using credit card to pay it, but that doesn't, I've got $10 in cash. I mean, I can afford it. But then you're putting on a credit card, it's earning interest. And some people are not even able to pay their credit cards off at the end of the month. They keep postponing it and then they delay it until the second month and it just never gets paid. So, you know, all these little expenses add up. Let's go back to the article. After you enjoyed the shows on the platform for several weeks, I tell you to cancel the subscription. You're not going to be happy with me because you've gotten into a routine of watching certain shows. And you really need to find out if Jane is going to dump Carlos to be with Chad. If you had financed those purchases with cash and you still had savings, I would not tell you to get rid of those items unless they really were nonsensical. So the first problem, okay, so we started the section with the deeper problem with status and comfort. So what I'm actually saying in this part of the article is that you become so used to that status that the car's given you. You become so comfortable with that subscription that's provided you. You know, it's entertaining you. It's helping you to pass time quicker and maybe lets you forget about all the problems at work. But it's costing you. It's costing you. And if you're in debt and you don't have savings, why do you have those things? It's because you want that status and you want that comfort. And the thing is, which I'm actually getting into the second part of it. So let's actually get back into the article so that I can go a bit further. After you've enjoyed the shows on the platform, oh, sorry, I read that. If you had I also read that as well. And there goes my book. The other problem with finance, status, and comfort. Now that you've taken out a loan to enjoy status and comfort, it feels good to bask in it. It does. I know. I speak from personal experience. You enjoy the feeling you get in a certain car, label clothing brands or outings. You can't get enough of that feeling and you want more of it, sometimes on a grander scale. So what follows? To carry on enjoying that lifestyle, which you can't afford, you keep on taking out more debt. So in the first part of the article, I mentioned about let's say you take out a mortgage for a house. Okay? It's not the worst debt that you can have, but you see the value that this has given you, that this has provided you with. It feels great to have a house and it feels comfortable. Then you think, what if I get another car? I need a car. I need to have a nice car to match my nice house. But then I also need a nice phone. I mean, look at this thing. It's old. It's like last year's model. I need the latest one. Otherwise, I'm going to die. And then to keep up with that lifestyle, to have more status, to have more comfort, or even to maintain that level, you go into more and more debt. So let's go carry on. To carry on enjoying that lifestyle which you can't afford, you keep on taking out more debt. It's inevitable. This is how it always happens in most 99% of the cases. When you finance certain items, it means you're living above your means. If you weren't, you would finance them with cash. One debt usually means taking out more debt. You got vehicle finance, so what's wrong with taking out a cell phone contract to have the latest model, right? It's a small purchase in comparison to the car. See what I mean? After the phone contract, you're likely to take out a gym contract, put the shoes on the credit card, and everything else you can't afford. Sometimes it starts the other way around. It starts with a small thing. It's like, oh, let me just, this is a small thing. Let me put it on a credit card. And then another bigger thing comes along. Oh, well, I can't afford this, but I really want it. Let me just add it. I'll pay it off. I'll get a promotion. We'll work something out at the end of the month. And then you keep adding more and more things to the credit card because of status and comfort. It's a hole that you dig deeper. Remember, I said so many times that, the way to get out of a hole is not to dig it deeper. And that's exactly what you do by taking out more debt. Because like I said in a previous live stream, some people have two credit cards, one credit card to pay off the other. That's what they're doing. And the way that I got out of debt is I just stopped. One day I said, I'm drawing the line, no more debt ever again. And I was in a mess. I was homeless and I had 40K in debt and I needed money to buy food, to kind of start all over again. So some borrowed money would have helped. At least that's what I thought it would have done. But it's a short-term solution that creates a long-term problem. Because you have to pay that back eventually. It kind of gives you leeway initially, but then it catches up to you and it's never worth it. So when I decided not to have any more debt, I struggled because I'd gotten so used to having that backup plan, which was debt. I could always fall back on it. And even once I got fired from my nightclub that I started, my credit at the time was still good. Oh, no. Before I got fired from the nightclub, I took out an overdraft. That's when my credit was good. And it was just like, the money's there. The bank is going to give it to me. So let me take it. And I just decided, no, I'm not going to take out any more debt because I don't want to dig the hole deeper. And I just started chipping away at the debt. I gotten so used to having this debt that it was difficult for me to comprehend, to grasp that it's not normal to constantly be in this perpetual cycle of debt. It's just not. It's crazy. And it doesn't need to be that way. And that's why I stopped taking out debt and I just worked hard to pay it off. And it was really, really difficult in the beginning. Okay, so let's carry on. Let go of status and comfort. So this is your first step. And I'm going to go deeper into this also tomorrow in tomorrow's live stream. But just to touch on it now, the best thing about when I was homeless is that I stopped caring about what people thought of me. I should have just said the best thing about being homeless is that I stopped caring about what people thought of me. Sure, we all care to a certain degree Sure, we all care to a certain degree about what people think of us. Otherwise, we'd walk naked in public. But I didn't care about car ownership, exotic vacations, and designer brands to boost my status and comfort. This was after I decided to completely turn my finances around. I just didn't care when I became homeless. It's like I hit rock bottom. What are you going to judge me on? Yeah, there's nothing more to judge me on. I've literally got nothing left. In fact, I also got very uncomfortable. After my luxury BMW was repossessed, I didn't buy another car, even though I had cash. I wore cheap t-shirts and didn't take a vacation. Not a single one. Even now that I'm out of debt and have savings, I still haven't taken a vacation. That's true. I was just thinking, I think yesterday or the day before that, when was the last time I went on vacation? I've taken like 2 or 3 days off and just stayed at home, but never gone anywhere. And the last time was actually in 2013. So it's been 11 years that I went on vacation. I took about a week off from work, and I went to Durban, which is by the Indian Ocean. I stayed in Johannesburg, so I traveled by car to Durban, and that was just for a week. But yeah, it was 11 years ago, and I haven't taken a vacation since. I've taken a few days off, but not a serious vacation or anything like that. Vacations are for rich and broke people. Well, if you think about it, I mean, that's really what it is. Only the rich can actually afford to go on vacation, but broke people also go on vacations. The big difference is that they usually finance it with a credit card. The middle class don't mind staying at home because they're concerned about getting out of debt and building savings to have a great retirement. They're thinking long term instead of impulsively, like broke people seeking status and comfort. So, when I say stuff like, what did I say? The middle class. So, a lot of people consider themselves to be middle class because they have a house and they have a car, but they've got debt. Their net worth is actually negative. So, how can you be middle class when you have a negative net worth? Even if you have a zero, even if you have no debt but no savings, you're still not middle class. That's why I specifically refer, when I say the middle class don't mind staying at home because they're concerned about getting out of debt. So the middle class are people who are out of debt and who have savings and usually investments as well. That's the true middle class. Not, I live in a house and I've got 2 cars, but they're financed and I've got a mortgage and barely any savings. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but yet I'm still middle class. No. Sorry, you're not middle class. When I was homeless, I was living in my car. It was a luxury BMW. So what am I? Like, compared to the other homeless people, now middle class? No, of course I'm not. I'm still broke. So what did I just want to read this last sentence. I said, the middle class don't mind staying at home because they're concerned about getting out of debt and building savings to have a great retirement. They're thinking long term instead of impulsively, like broke people seeking status and comfort. Okay, maybe I didn't word that the best, but what I meant is broke people are making impulsive decisions because of status and comfort. That's what I really wanted to say. So let's wrap it up. The last 2 sentences or 3. The moment you stop caring about having other people's validation to enjoy status and seeking comfort is when you will make different purchase decisions. No longer will your decisions be influenced by what others think you should have. Instead, I actually need to rewrite this last part. I'm not happy with it. Instead, you will withhold certain purchases until you're out of debt and have savings. That's much smarter than having debt to have a stupid car and designer clothing. So I've kind of touched on this subject. We've gone into why you actually have financial distress and status and comfort being big part of it. And I'm going to discuss this topic further because it's so crucial that you grasp this concept, that you really understand it. And I think it's going to improve your finances if you really look into it and look into our discussions, which will continue this tomorrow. So thank you for joining me today. It was only half an hour and it just flew by. But we'll have another live stream tomorrow, half an hour, definitely, at the very least, where we'll discuss this topic. And maybe we even do a third part if I don't have enough time. But we will go deeper into it because it is so crucial. Thanks for joining me, 7 a.m. Standard Time, Monday to Friday. Catch you on YouTube. Bye-bye.